Hey everyone, my name is Todd Minshew, better known in Efed circles in this day and age as Jeremiah Woods, but the majority of my career I was known as the Spectre. And right off the top of my speech here, I want to thank Grant Miller for recognizing not only myself, but also Mike Bell, Sean Jackson, recognizing our longevity in this hobby. He referred to us as the OG, so I actually respect that, and I thank him for doing that. Now, how everything came about as far as me getting into professional wrestling itself was by accident, I guess. I was probably about 13, 14 at the time, and I was flipping through channels one day, and I came across WCCW wrestling because I'm originally from Dallas, Texas. Of course, the WCCW was known for having the Von Erichs, the Freebirds, Gentleman Chris Adams, and Ric Flair, and so I had it on there on the channel for a little bit, and then right away my dad was like, "Why do you watch that shit? That's fake shit. Don't even watch that. That's violence." Because I was a protected child. So that kind of was a disappointment, and I kind of just okay, well, whatever. And then a short time later, when I went to visit my cousin, she was watching WCCW. And I guess the thing that got me more than anything was that the females in the audience would be screaming and fawning over the Von Erichs. And that kind of made my eyes roll because to me, there was no sense in doing that. There was just no sense in screaming like that. It was just juvenile. So, with me in the back of my head, thinking of what my dad told me, I told my cousin, I said, "Don't you know that crap is fake? Why do you get into that stuff?" And I guess it was more or less, for me, it was more, again, the fact that the females were screaming over the Von Erichs because it was a distraction. It was a distraction to what was going on in the ring. So, I kind of let that go. And then a couple of years later, summer 1985, I was out of school, was a freshman, out of school at the time. And purely by accident, I'm flipping through the TV guide and I see something that says WWF Superstars. And I'm like, what? What is that? So I flip over to that independent station, and I was immediately hooked into the production, the larger than life characters, the fact that the events were taking place in large coliseums and arenas instead of a small place like the Sportatorium, even though it has its history. It was huge and big, and that's what caught my eye. So from that point on, I was a WWF loyalist. Watched the show, or have watched the shows for now almost for 35 years. But it was the production and the animated characters that just made it seem so fascinating. So one thing that probably really changed for me is the debut of the Undertaker. He was completely different from any character that I'd ever seen, and I was fascinated. I was like in awe of this dark, creepy character who just seemed impervious and unstoppable. And I'm like, wow. I wish I could be like that guy. That guy is something. He is a sight to behold. And about the same time, again by accident, I'm watching. I've always been a Scooby-Doo fan. I was watching an episode of Scooby-Doo, and it was called the Spectre of Ebenezer Crab, and I'll just do this real quick. That is who the specter of Ebenezer Crab was. And to me, he was another dark character. And combining that with the fact that I just happened to be flipping through channels one day, and I saw Dangerous Dan Spivey, and he had the creepiest grin, the widest eyes, and he looked sinister. So combining that, the Undertaker, the specter of Ebenezer Crab, Dangerous Dan Spivey, and I had the beginnings, the roots of the specter in my head. Now, little did I know, since I never really watched WCW, that Dan Spivey and the Undertaker, Mark Calloway, were actually a tag team in WCW known as the Skyscrapers. I didn't know that till several years later. But to me, it all fit. And in the beginning, this is where the roots started taking place and fleshing out. But again, at the time, there was no Efeds out there. So I, with my future brother-in-laws, at the time around 1991, 1992, we started doing some backyard wrestling. And I would always be the specter, and I had to describe the character to them. And it was always the parts when we had our little rumbles that when the specter was named, they freaked out because they knew, based on my description, that he was dangerous and he was something. He was amazing. He was something not to be fucked with. So, over the next few years of backyard wrestling, that's all. That was the limits really to what the specter was. Then in 1996, that's when the pro wrestling world changed forever. You know, Stone Cold had just made his infamous Austin 316 speech. Hogan had turned heel and went with an NWO, and everybody was watching and talking about pro wrestling. Now, at the time, the internet was just starting to explode. It was about early August of 1996, and I'm in this webpage called Web Chat Broadcasting Service. And it was basically a huge chat room for all sorts of topics. Anything you can think of, random shit it would talk about. So, one of the particular forums was pro wrestling. And again, at the time, this was discussions mainly between WWF, WCW, and ECW. And we all had a good time, you know, talking about various things, and there was battles back and forth, you know, WCW and WWF sucks and this and that. So they each had their own fans. So I'm in the chat room one night, and this young guy, whose handle was Brian in WA, hits me up with a message. He goes, "Hey Spectre," because my handle at the time was Spectre26. He says, "Hey Spectre, want to join my EFED?" And of course, my first question was, what's an EFED? I had no fucking idea what it was. But after he described it, I'm like, hell yeah, because me coming up with a character, because this had to be your own original character. You couldn't use someone from the actual real feds. This was creating your own character. So right out of the gate, I knew who I was going to use. I was going to use the Spectre. And from there, things just took off. And if you would have told me that after my very first match in August of 1996, if someone would have come to me and say, "Todd, look, it's going to be May of 2020. You're still going to be Efedding. You are still going to be using the Spectre, although sporadically. And you are going to be not only a Hall of Famer, but a two-time Hall of Famer, because I'm a Hall of Famer in the UTA right now." If you would have told me that, I would have I wouldn't have believed you, because I thought my career would have ended long ago. I would have lost interest or moved on. But it didn't. It part of it was the love for professional wrestling, the love for Efedding, and just having a good time doing this and portraying this character. Now, being an OG, yes, I've definitely seen the hobby evolve. Back when I first did this in 1996, it was all email. Emails went back and forth. You submitted your promo, which back then was writing 20 lines, a quick little 20-line promo against your opponent, and then the Fed head owner judged between the role plays and determined a winner, and then wrote up a short match. But it was just so fun and so exciting, and I was very successful in the first place I was in, called IWA, Internet Wrestling Association, that ran from August of 1996 to the beginning of 1998. Ended up having the second best record in that company. My biggest competition, so to speak, was a guy named Mr. Fantastic, real name Chuck Kapoor. And we were at first enemies, but then we became friends and formed not only a tag team, but our own faction called the Dominion, later known as the Spawn. After that run, I decided, myself and Chuck decided, hey, let's run our own Fed. It can't be that hard. We call it Internet Championship Wrestling Federation. But I quickly found out that running a Fed, running a wrestling organization like that, it just wasn't me. It's not for me. My place didn't belong behind the scenes. My place belonged in front of the camera, portraying a character who I loved to portray and just love to fuck with people with. So after that failure of ICWF, in early 2000, I'm approached by another person. His name is Ben Halcomb, and he happened to be from Texas. He lived about 60, 70 miles down the road from where I lived. And he's like, you want to join my Fed? It's called Wrestle UTA. And that is where the real career of the Spectre started to take off. And it is where my loyalties were really put to the test, because between 2000 and 2006, UTA closed at least 6 times. But I always came back, because what mattered to me was not getting necessarily titles, but just being loyal to the ones who were loyal to me. It's a mantra. It's a philosophy that I've lived by my entire EFED career, and it's something that I'll continue to do. You know, in my almost 24-year career, I've been in only six EFEDs. It's IWA, UTA, BACW, PWA, IW Omega, and if you really want to count it, ICWF, which I was also a competitor. That, for me, is what I believed helped propel my career, made it great, made it successful, because I've always believed in loyal to someone who may or may not be no fault of their own. They always came to me, and I always said yes. I always said yes. After a certain amount of time with the UTA, though, it was time for me to move on, because there was just no point in trying to beat a dead horse at the time. I loved Ben. He was great. He helped the Spectre become bigger than life. He put me in his Hall of Fame, the UTA Hall of Fame. But it was time to move on, and that's when I was looking for something bigger, something better, and I came across Badass Championship Wrestling, ran by Brad Batista, and he actually had shows that were produced via audio, and it wasn't someone sitting down just giving their rundown and reading off a script or something like this. No, this was sound effects. This was an announcer being a big persona, and it was just amazing. All that work and effort that he put into the show, all the work and effort that the people, the different personas, the participants, because this is where I really had to challenge myself, because the writing, the creativity among several other people, most notably a persona called Rick Ulfric, which was actually created by a girl, a woman, and she was amazing in her writing and her words. Got to jump back. VWA, Vicious Wrestling Alliance. I was in that place for a couple of years. Was also successful. Scott Ribble, I love you. BACW. Sorry, BACW again. That's where I remained loyal and was very successful. And even a big joke that was kind of in the running was that there was a curse, because every time I'd lose the title, I'd get it back real soon, because someone would lose interest, they'd quit, something would happen. So it was the curse, and that's what kind of helped me become an eventual 9-time world heavyweight champion. And it's probably where I had, I guess, the most fun ever, where I was the most successful, where I was at the peak of my career, and I just saw no stopping it. No, there's no stopping it. But eventually, yes, things come to an end, and the place closed down. BACW closed down. Brad Batista had other commitments, family commitments, and just couldn't run BACW anymore. Now, during this period, as early as 2008, I was touring with video promos. There was only a couple, but I thought that was a place where the hobby of Efedding would evolve, where it would go to the next level, because writing several promos a week, every week, was too time consuming and draining. So what better way than to cut a promo, get in front of the camera for so many minutes, and then post it. But back then, Facebook, there was no real Facebook groups like that out there that I knew of, and everything I posted was through YouTube. I tried to get others to come on board, but they weren't really with it. They didn't want to do that because it wasn't their style. They were used to create, writing promos, which is great because, again, I spent so many years doing promos, writing promos, that I got it. I understood it. For me, though, because I was growing older, and by this time I had 3 kids, and I just need to spend more time with my family than spending hours writing promos and stuff. So I'm glad that I came along and found PWA. PWA was the first video fed that I actually found and had a lot of fun. I had a lot of enjoyment in it. And again, this is where the larger than life characters, some of them stood out. There was different levels of participants and stuff, but it was the interaction between the people in front of the camera, behind the scenes, talking with them, that made it so interesting. Made lots of friends there. And again, I was always trying to challenge myself, keep things fresh, and I just enjoyed every minute of it, because I'm thinking in the back of my head, yes, this is what I wanted. This is what I wanted the hobby to evolve to, because if you don't evolve, I mean, my character evolved and changed through the years, uh, and that's what keeps things fresh, keeps things interesting, keeps people motivated, and keeps them interested and not bored with the game. Now, moving forward, to where I am right now, I'm under the IW umbrella, under IW Omega, and one of my greatest friends, who I'd known since 2012, Mike Bell, Sean Jackson, came on board with me to. He had been on board with me in PWA, but we were locked in this battle that we had been going on since 2012. I decided to change things up and surprise him by actually helping him, assisting him during a tag match or during a match. And it is then and there that Jagged Subversion was formed, and I think that helped revive my career, which was in my eyes floundering, wasn't really going anywhere. You know, I was in the twilight of my career. But I can honestly say I think that being part of Jagged Subversion helped elevate my game, helped elevate Sean Jackson, Mike Bell's game, and we became very successful. And a lot of people seem to enjoy us as a tag team, and seem very appreciative. So, I guess in conclusion, long speech. In conclusion, for those that may be just getting into this, who think that they may only last a little while or may feel burned out, don't give up. Don't give up. If you feel like you're being burned out, then walk away. Walk away for a little bit. If you feel like your character is kind of floundering, change things up. Keep things interesting. Change up something. Always evolve in the game. But keep that passion. Keep that fun. The keyword fun in you, in your mind. And know that in the end, this is just a game. Though it can be hard to sometimes differentiate between that, that can be a good thing because you have that passion, that drive, that desire. I don't know how much longer I will last in this because I didn't think I'd be here now. I thought I was done a long time ago. But it just, I can't say enough that I love doing this. I love Efedding, this e-hobby, e-wrestling. And I don't know I don't know what else could hold my interest other than my kids. My kids hold my interest. They're my world. I love them to death. Again, my loyalty, my passion, my drive, my desire to keep the persona of the Spectre going is what keeps me around. And it's nice to know that I am appreciated by some of you out there, and that's what kind of keeps me going. Because if no one was interested in the Spectre or interested in me, then I probably would have given up a long time ago. Again, I want to thank all of you, all the Fed head owners through the years: Brian Strid, Ben Halcomb, Scott Rybolt, Brad Batista, Dylan Mays, Keith Cypress, Anton Garcia, and David Jones. I want to thank you for this, for giving me a platform, giving me something fun to enjoy. And I just really am proud to accept the nomination into the EWN EFED Hall of Fame. Thanks.